Pause. Please stop what you're doing right now and take a deep breath. What I'm about to tell you isn't for everyone scrolling past, but it is, without question, for you. Something happened in the last few days that you tried to ignore, but you felt it deep in your gut like a warning. You noticed there's an energy, a hidden intention, coming from someone you considered close or at least harmless, and that person is actively scheming to slow you down. You're not crazy for feeling this. You're just finally waking up to the invisible battlefield where your life has been playing out. I didn't come here to tell you vague stories or give you shallow advice. I came to hand you a reconnaissance map. By the end of this conversation, you'll understand exactly what signs this person has been giving off, the ones you, out of your own kindness, chose to ignore. You'll uncover the hidden pattern this opposing energy has been using to try to drain your progress, keeping you stuck in a cycle of stagnation that was never meant for you. And most importantly, I'll show you how to shut down that influence without lifting a finger in combat, because your strength isn't in confrontation. It's in the clarity of your purpose. Stay with me, because what I have to reveal to you is the very reason you were led to hear this today. You've been feeling a tiredness that doesn't come from physical work, but from a constant drain that happens every time you interact with certain people. There's a physical discomfort, a tightness in your chest, that shows up when you walk into certain environments or get a specific message, as if your own body is trying to protect you before your mind can even form the danger. You've also noticed that lately, people who never showed interest in your life have started asking intrusive questions, almost like they're gathering information to map out your next move. These symptoms aren't a coincidence. They're the alarms of a spiritual defense system you've neglected for too long. The opposition doesn't come as a declared enemy. It comes disguised as advice, disguised as concern, disguised as a friendship that's actually feeding off your light. They watch your harvest, they watch your growth, and while you walk with integrity, they walk with a plan to make sure you never reach the top of the mountain. If any of what I just described touched your heart, if you felt a chill recognizing that constant sense of surveillance over your steps, stop right now. Typing these 3 numbers is your decree that you are aware, that you're no longer operating in the dark, and that you reclaim authority over your own destiny. It's not just a number, it's the frequency of confirmation and protection. Type 777 now and come straight back to me, because what I'm about to show you is the root cause of this entire conspiracy you've been sensing. You need to understand that the hidden pattern behind these shifts in behavior has nothing to do with who you are, but with who you've become. When someone starts changing their posture, when that smile turns forced, or when the conversation that used to flow naturally now feels like a disguised interrogation, you're facing an attempted frequency capture. These people aren't just watching your life, they're trying to mirror your glow so that, lacking their own light, they can feed off your energy. The pattern you've been dealing with is induced stagnation. They don't need you to fail catastrophically. They just need you to stay in the same place, spinning in circles, wasting all your vitality on problems they created to keep your attention scattered. They know that if you take the next step, if you finally access the potential you've held in reserve, the distance between your journey and theirs will become too vast to ignore. They can't stand the mirror you represent because your mere presence, your discipline, your ability to rebuild are constant reminders of everything they refuse to cultivate in themselves. Imagine for a moment the picture of a fenced garden, a sacred space you prepared with all your care, tending every seed, watering the soil with your own dedication and patience. That garden is your harvest, your purpose, the fruit you are meant to gather. Other people's envy, that opposing energy trying to block your harvest, doesn't enter the garden to plant weeds. That would be too obvious. Instead, it positions itself outside the fence, trying to block the sun. They project a shadow over your plants, trying to convince you that the soil is dry, that the seed won't sprout, that the effort you're making is wasted. They watch every little shoot, hoping for a frost or a pest to show up. Because if your garden blooms, the aridity of their own ground will be exposed for everyone to see. This envy isn't just a bad feeling, it's a blocking strategy. They create noise, create distractions, create drama. Also, you take your eyes off your own land and start looking at their fence, trying to understand why they're so restless, trying to justify your own light to people who prefer to live in darkness. They want you to stop watering, to get tired of tending, to feel insecure about the value of what you built with so much sacrifice. Let this recognition settle where it needs to act. The simple act of typing these 4 words makes your testimony permanent, affirming that you are no longer the victim of the shadow, but the witness of your own light. Write it now, clearly and firmly, and then come straight back to me because we need to finish this process. The solution to deactivating any power someone tries to exert over your path isn't in combat, nor in defense, and certainly not in trying to explain your worth. The solution is returning to your own essence. When you stop reacting to other people's moves, when you stop trying to convince someone who has already decided not to see, their influence simply loses its anchor point. They only have power over you as long as you're trying to negotiate with the shadow. Returning to your essence is a process of unlearning, an act of withdrawing attention from everything that tries to drain you and placing it entirely on what you know to be true. It's like suddenly flipping the switch that powered that conflict, realizing that the other person's strength was really just the permission you gave them to take up space in your mind. You don't need to destroy their fence. You only need to care for your garden with so much focus that there's no time or energy left to look outside. When you become self-sufficient in your truth, when you decide that your purpose doesn't depend on the approval or understanding of those who conspire against you, their energy returns to its source. It finds no reception. It finds no soil to grow in. You become a neutralized field for envy because you are anchored in a frequency that pettiness cannot reach. It's a return to sovereignty, where you understand that no one can take from you what you haven't handed over yourself. The deactivation happens in silence, in your posture, in your unshakable decision to keep cultivating, even if the shadow still lingers by the fence, because you know that in the end, the sun always returns to your garden. Don't view it as a social media metric. Don't see it through the lens of engagement or numbers. See this gesture as a spiritual seal, a sign of unshakable agreement that the truth has been named, the falsehood identified, and your own stance toward life restored. It's a sacred act of saying yes to your own path, without needing a single word to explain to others what you've decided to protect from now on. Take a deep breath and feel the weight of this alignment. There's a clarity settling in where confusion used to be, and it's from that clarity that your gaze now turns to your surroundings. Because you are not walking alone in this clarity, and I need you to direct your attention to someone specific who is now coming to mind. There is someone in your circle, maybe someone you've been watching from a distance, who carries a heavy burden in silence. It's that person who works hard, who dedicates themselves with a loyalty no one seems to notice, yet who, strangely, keeps seeing doors close in front of them as if an invisible block is in place. It's a person with a noble soul, but who is exhausted from carrying the weight of others' expectations, someone living a loneliness that's accompanied, where even those close to them don't understand the depth of the battle they face every day. That person is a reflection of who you used to be, or maybe someone you are being called to protect through your example. Their image came into your mind clearly, not by accident, but by a call to service. Send this content to that person. Do it as a delivery, like someone passing on a key they just found. Maybe that person needs to hear these exact words to understand that opposition isn't a decree of failure, but the sign that they are finally harvesting something the shadow fears. Be the channel for this message, because the same care you are receiving now is what you are entrusted to extend to others. Now, before we go on, we need to anchor your spiritual authority in a definitive way. You've been operating under a fog that tried to hide your true nature, but the veil has fallen. In light of everything that's been revealed, in light of the strategy of those who tried to hurt you, and your decision to return to your own garden, a declaration of ownership is needed. Don't do it as someone who wants something, but as someone who recognizes an absolute truth that has already been established in your destiny. Type with the calm of someone who no longer needs to prove anything to anyone, only to confirm who you've always been and where you're going. Feel the strength of your hands as you write these words, because this command is your signature on your new life contract. You are the chosen one because you stopped seeking validation from those who conspire against your progress. You are the chosen one because you understood that your worth is non-negotiable and doesn't depend on the permission of people who lack the vision for your harvest. You are the chosen one because even in the face of betrayal, envy, and silent traps, you chose the path of integrity instead of the path of retaliation. That choice marks your territory. That choice defines your authority. You are, above all, the guardian of the light that was entrusted to you, and that light renders useless any plan drawn in darkness. You are committed to the truth that no one else can see. You are commissioned to cultivate this garden, no matter how many contrary winds try to knock down your plants. You are sent to live this sovereignty, knowing that your life is constant proof that nothing can stop someone aligned with their own essence. Everything that was taken from you in the form of energy and time will be restored in the form of peace and clarity. You are no longer on the defensive. You are in command of your own frequency, and that is a place of power where envy cannot dwell, where slander cannot penetrate, and where your destiny finally begins to be drawn by your own hands under the tutelage of something greater than any human conspiracy. You feel that subtle shift happening, an invisible current extending beyond the walls of your home, connecting your awakening to the awakening of many others who, at this very moment, are making the same pause, breathing the same air of renewal, and realizing that the darkness they tried to plant in your path has no deep root. There is a network of souls who, like you, have decided that the era of confusion and manipulation has ended, and the simple fact that you are here, hearing and absorbing these words, is proof that you are not operating alone in this transition. What you've lived through, what you've faced, the silent conspiracy that tried to divert your course, all of it is being dissolved by the power of recognition. People who acted with cunning, who hid intentions behind smiles, or who tried to undermine your confidence, they lose all power the moment you decide to stop looking at them and turn back to the light blazing in your chest. This collective connection is what makes everything impossible to contain by human plans. While someone works in the shadows to set a trap, you are, at this moment, strengthening the structure of your own truth, and that truth is an impenetrable barrier for those who live by appearances. People who once felt comfortable manipulating your destiny now find themselves before a mirror that no longer reflects the image they expected, because you have changed the frequency of your life. What was a plot to hurt you now becomes an exercise in detachment, where you observe others' moves with the clarity of someone who already knows the end of the story. There is no more room for negative surprise, because your intuition, once muffled by noise, is now the lighthouse guiding every step, anticipating the intentions of those who approach wearing masks. You need to understand that this sense of relief beginning to take hold of your shoulders, this weight being lifted, is not an accident. It is the direct response to your decision to step out of the game played by those who don't play fair. Where there was once fear of being deceived, now there is certainty of being guarded by a clarity that transcends any logic. You realize, perhaps for the first time with total sharpness, that the envy directed at you was always, in truth, a distorted acknowledgement of the light you carry, a light they, in their smallness, could never replicate. Every attempt at betrayal was just a sign that you were walking in a direction they couldn't follow, and that your progress alone was already an affront to the state of lethargy they dwell in. Don't waste any more energy trying to explain your path to those who have chosen darkness as their home. They lack the language needed to understand your journey, and trying to convince them is only a way to waste the strength that should be used for harvesting your own garden. Now feel the solidity of this new posture. You are no longer reacting to what happens outside you. You are acting from the center of your sovereignty. What was planned to bring you down actually only served to test the depth of your roots, and you discovered they are far stronger than you imagined. The person who schemed against you may keep up their charade, may still believe they are pulling the strings, but they have no idea that you have already cut all the connections that allowed them any influence over your peace. The cycle of oppression is not broken with shouting, with confrontation, or with justifications. It's broken with the silence of someone who knows their worth, with the firmness of someone who no longer accepts crumbs of respect, and with the clarity of someone who understands that their destiny is protected by something far greater than any human conspiracy. Your authority is silent, but it is absolute, and it is from that place that you will begin to build your next phase, free from the chains that held you back for too long. Let time take care of revealing what is hidden, for nothing built on lies can withstand constant exposure to the light of truth that you have now definitively chosen to inhabit. Hold this posture. Keep looking forward. The path is clear, and your harvest can finally begin to bear fruit that no one else can touch. What is now being revealed beneath the surface of everything you endured is the mechanics of the resistance itself that you encountered along your way. Often, the conspiracy you felt was not just an isolated event, but a direct reaction to your refusal to bend under pressures that were never yours to carry. You realize, perhaps with a jolt of clarity, that the strangeness you felt in certain environments was your spirit detecting a flaw in the integrity of the people around you, long before your logical mind could process what was happening. That intuition, which you sometimes tried to silence to keep the peace, was your greatest defense system, an inner compass, trying at all costs to steer you away from ground where your seed would never find fertile soil. You didn't fail to see the danger. You only took a while to believe that someone could be so petty as to plot against your progress. And it is precisely in that acceptance of human nature, without any cynicism, that your definitive liberation lies. Envy in its rawest form is never about what you have, but about the light you emanate without any effort. Those who plotted against you can't stand the mirror you represent, because your existence, focused and disciplined, exposes the gaps and emptiness of their own choices. They would rather see you stopped, stagnant, confused, because that validates their own paralysis. But by understanding that the opposition was, ultimately, a forced acknowledgement of your potential, you strip away the power they thought they had over your journey. The energy they wasted trying to dig holes in your path is now the energy they lose, while you, silently, build your bridge over the abyss they dug. If you feel that this understanding just removed a thick fog that hung over your thoughts, if you realize that the missing piece to understand the last few months finally clicked into place, stop everything for a moment and breathe deeply. Let this declaration mark the moment you stopped hiding and took your rightful place. The act of typing these 3 words with the right intention seals the recognition inside your own system, anchoring the awareness you just recovered. Type it and then come back to me, because there is still one more step in this climb. The truth is, your garden, that inner field where your ideas and dreams bloom, needs invisible fences, boundaries you draw not out of fear, but out of care for what has been entrusted to you. You spent too long allowing trespassers to step on your soil, feeding the false notion that kindness required the absence of borders. Protecting your space is not an act of isolation. It is an act of preserving your frequency. You are learning the difference between being open to the world and being vulnerable to predators. This new phase, now unfolding before you, is defined by a silence that unsettles those who thrive on chaos and gossip. They try to provoke a reaction, searching for any move from you so they can feed on your energy, but you are now operating on a different frequency. They are like passing winds, trying to shake a tree whose roots have already reached solid rock. There is no longer any need for confrontation, because confrontation requires you to stoop to the level of the one attacking you. You remain standing, focused, reaping what you have sown, while their confusion gradually becomes the only noise in a landscape that, for you, has turned into unshakable serenity. Think now about the quality of your peace. It is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of a purpose that has grown larger than any external provocation. While they occupy themselves with the plot of a story that only exists inside their own heads, you occupy yourself with building a reality that will soon be undeniable. There is no time to look back, no energy to mourn what was attempted against you, because your vision is completely taken over by the direction you have chosen to follow. You are being prepared for something that demands a clear mind and a heart that does not carry the weight of past grievances. The cleansing process you went through, though painful, is what made you capable of carrying what comes next. Nothing that happened was wasted. Everything was a form of training, a course correction, a refinement of your deepest intention. You are at last ready for what is yours, and no one, no matter how hard they try, can stop the harvest of one who has learned to walk in the light of their own truth. Stop for a moment and take a deep breath, letting the reality of everything that has been revealed here settle in your chest. If something inside you has just aligned, if the recognition of your own power in the face of these blocking attempts has finally found a resting place, type the words, "I am here," in the space below. It is not just a phrase. It is the marking of a territory that you now occupy with full awareness. Let your spirit register this moment as the turning point where you stopped being the target and became the observer of your own victory. The act of typing this seal closes the chapter of doubt. Type it, and then come back to me, because this is the path that crosses the veil. You know, there is someone in your close circle, someone you carry in your memory with a mix of concern and affection, who needs to hear exactly what you heard today. That person is someone who works hard, keeping a smile on their face even when exhaustion becomes unbearable. Someone who has been the foundation for many, but who secretly feels helpless when doors keep refusing to open. That person whose face came to your mind while I was speaking, that person needs to be notified. Send this content to them, not as a casual piece of advice, but as a delivery, a message sent by divine appointment, so they know that their cycle of struggle is also about to find its end. And now, before we close this cycle, I want you to understand that what was built here today is a covenant of spiritual authority. Write the words, "I am the chosen one," in the comments. Do it slowly, feeling each letter as if you were signing the contract for a new life. It is not a request, it is a confirmation of your lineage and the purpose you carry. If something in this message resonated like an echo of truths you have always known, but never had the courage to speak out loud, let your like be your wordless amen. Not as a gesture for others, but as a silent seal between you and the truth that was revealed. You are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent. You are the light that does not need to explain its own existence in order to illuminate the room. You are the living proof that even when the world tries to put obstacles in your path, the destiny traced for you is non-negotiable. Go now with the certainty that the protection surrounding you is not made of human hands, but of an order that transcends any earthly conspiracy. Right now, spread across the entire world, hundreds of people are receiving this exact same acknowledgement at this very moment. You are not alone on this path. You are part of a silent awakening, a legion that needs no fanfare to transform the reality around them, and it is precisely in that quiet discretion that your unshakable strength resides.